Hello, the time has come to take a look at another issue of Paragon Publishing's Dreamcast Magazine. This is issue 14, which was released on the 5th of October 2000. And the first thing you can see, clearly, is one Mr. Ryo Hazuki there on the front cover, looking quite menacing there. These 50-cent style sticker or plaster, whatever it is. So the main thing, obviously, with this magazine is that Shenmue features heavily, Jet Set Radio and Le Mans 24 Hours. Also, Ultimate Fighting Championship down here on this little banner. Okay, let's move on to the contents. Same as usual. Editorial there from Simon Phillips, the editor. Contents. Nothing too exciting here. I'll just move the magazine so you can see it a little bit better there in the middle of the screen. Okay, so cover story, newscast, Shenmue. It's hard to believe a time when Shenmue wasn't actually just something that you could buy. Obviously now it's a little bit more expensive, but you know, it's just one of those games now that you type it into Google and it just instantly appears, but obviously back then it wasn't the case. So yeah, just some new shots here, and yeah, these shots kind of wowed people back then because, you know, it looks as if you're in like a complete open world. You know, you're in the docks, you're in markets, you're in, you know, at various other locations. Considering it's a cover story even, there's only this one sort of double-page spread on the game. So yeah, moving on, we've got this feature here, which is a look at the Dreamcast premiere event, which was held sort of at the same time as the launch of the PlayStation 2, kind of as a look, we're still here type thing from Sega Europe. And by all intents, you know, by all accounts, it was quite a successful event. You know, they had things like people dressed up as Ulala and that kind of thing. I've done plenty of articles on this event on the Dreamcast Junkyard. If you just go and search Dreamcast Premiere, you'll find them. A couple of interesting stories down here on the left-hand side of the page. One of the most interesting ones is this. I haven't heard of this before. Sega apparently were involved in a legal battle with a company called Media Optrix over a patent of some kind, but it's not actually revealed what the patent was, and I can't find any details on the internet about what it actually was, so that's an interesting thing. A thing down here about a game called VIP, which was coming from Ubisoft, which was based on a TV series starring Pamela Anderson that was cancelled. And then probably the most interesting thing that I found in this magazine so far is this little snippet down here. I will put this on the Dreamcast Junkyard blog where I put these videos up. Apparently, according to an interview with Yuji Naka, one of the names that was suggested for the Dreamcast before it was settled on Dreamcast was the Sega G Cube. Now, I'd never heard that before. So that's quite an interesting little snippet of information. G Cube. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Charts here and release schedule. There's nothing really in there that's that unusual. Obviously, Half-Life's in there. Architect of the Dark Brotherhood. Nothing else we've never heard of before. Preview here of 18-wheeler. Preview of Toy Racer. That's the online multiplayer racer. And Headhunter. First shots revealed. Okay, more previews here. Obviously, this one is for Gun Valkyrie, which went on to be an Xbox game. And then this one is Outrigger. Some more details here about the microphone that wasn't actually out at the point this magazine was released. PC to DC special. Stupid Invaders, we know, came to the Dreamcast. Giant Citizen Kabuto and Red Alert 2. Neither of those two did. I've noticed that in all of these Dreamcast magazines, there's these big double-page adverts for Virgin Radio, and I just can't... I mean, whether the advertising was quite cheap or what, I don't know who they were trying to appeal to. Okay, more previews. This one is for Ubisoft's Might and Magic 3, Buzz Lightyear of Star Command, and KO the Kangaroo. Okay, now import news, or import for those people living in the UK anyway. Japanese news. These peripherals have come out for the Dreamcast, which have all got these wacky, brilliant new designs. So you've got silver, leopard print, pink pearlescent VMUs. All very nice. In the UK, you probably, I don't know if you know this, everyone living in the UK watching this will know this, but over here, the only ones we got were the standard white ones. I know in the US they got blue and red and green and all different other like translucent colours of controllers and VMUs, but here we only got the white ones officially. So these obviously caused quite a stir back then. this article here is detailing the Dream Eye. Again, something we never got here, or in the US actually. And then this is an interesting article down in the left-hand corner. I will put this up on the blog. There's an internet starter kit for housewives, which I'm not making up. I have read about this before, but I'm guessing I'm presuming a lot of people haven't heard of it. But Sega released it was a guide to the internet for housewives. Basically, you could never do that these days with how PC the world is, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but Sega deemed it appropriate to release a housewives guide to the internet, complete with a mouse mat, a keyboard, and some various books and whatnot. By the looks of the image here, US news: SegaNet launching in the US, and then there's a competition there to win Echo the Dolphin. More previews: Moho, Spawn, Ducati Life, which was actually released as Ducati World and is one of the worst games on the Dreamcast. ESPN Track and Field and Sega Extreme Sports. I quite like Extreme Sports. It's got like a weird morphing effect on the landscape, but I still find it quite enjoyable. Le Mans 24 Hours. This is one of the cover stories. One of the better games on the Dreamcast. Certainly one of the better racing games, and also one of the best looking games on the system as well. Competition there for Hidden and Dangerous. And then another preview, this time Jet Set Radio. Double page or triple page Jet Set Radio feature. F1 World Grand Prix 2 advert. And then we're into the review section. Quite a lot of reviews in this section actually, this issue. Okay, so the first one is Ultimate Fine Championship. I'm not really sure what my thoughts are on this game. I mean, I love the presentation. I think it's really well done. It's got brilliant commentary and graphics and all that kind of thing. I think when I first played it, I didn't really know anything about real world UFC, and it wasn't really that big back then either. And I thought the fights were over really quickly, or someone would go to ground and then you get pummeled in the face and then the game was kind of over. And yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think it's a great game, but I just wasn't a massive fan of it back then. So this one gets 93%. Okay, Space Channel 5. It's another game. Again, I like the aesthetic of it, but I'm not a big fan of the gameplay because it's really just kind of like a Parappa the Rapper style follow the instructions game. And that gets 90% down here. Ferrari F355. So I'm going to sound like really negative on this video, but Ferrari again is another game I think looks fantastic, but I just can't get on with it because it's so damn difficult. Not just because the AI is like ridiculously good and I'm rubbish, but it's just so hard to control. And I do generally play racing games from the cockpit view, but I think the cockpit view in Ferrari is it's too low. And I don't know if that is mirroring how low a Ferrari actually is, because I've never driven a Ferrari, but I don't know, there's something about it, I can't get on with it. But this one gets 91%. I suppose as an arcade conversion, it's pretty flawless, other than the fact that you haven't got the 3 displays. It's a great example of an arcade to home conversion, but I just don't think the original game is really, I don't know. I'll leave that. Advert for Urban Chaos, utter rubbish. Virtua Athlete 2K, 79%. Bang.io, 69%. Right. Something I want to just bring up very briefly about this era of magazines and this era of gaming in general was that whereas today, 2016 and, in recent times, 2D gaming has really taken off and it's kind of appreciated more, whereas back then, in that era of the Dreamcast and the N64 and the PlayStation and the Saturn and that kind of sort of time span, I don't think there was the same appreciation for 2D games. I think they were seen as a step back. Whereas now, if you have a 2D game with loads of like sprites and no slowdown and really detailed animation and that kind of thing, it's kind of appreciated a lot more than 2D games were in this era. And so they suffered unfairly because of it, because of like bias of the reviewer, for example. So Bang.io, which many people consider to be a brilliant game, and I really like it, and the amount of sprites on the screen and just the quirky gameplay, they make it really original. But I mean, this review kind of condemns it because of the visuals, And they give you like 51% for graphics. Now, I think it's a brilliant looking game, but I think it's just a product of the time, of the era. Everything had to be 3D. Everything had to be like mind-blowingly, brilliantly, like like Shenmue or whatever, or just 3D was the thing at the time. And yeah, so Bangayo gets 69% and gets utterly kind of lambasted for its visuals, which I don't think is fair at all. Moving on, we've got Jeremy McGrath Supercross, utterly lamentable game, 29%, and rightly so. Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, 71. So, as I said before, games in this era, 2D games in this era, were not treated well at all, and it was predominantly down to the fact that they were 2D. So, this one is another that gets an unfair, quite low score. It's easily an 80 to 90% game, Third Strike. Urban Chaos, again, if you've read my article on the Dreamcast Junkyard about the worst games on the Dreamcast, this is in there, and rightly so. Gets 49% here. Time Stalkers, again, a game I own, but one I've not actually played, so I'm not really familiar with it, but it gets 36%. I'd heard bad things about it. I didn't realise it was that bad, though. But, going off this magazine, sometimes the reviews are a bit, a bit biased, I would say. I don't know. Mad Force Racing, 51%. It looks nice, but it's quite slow for a futuristic racing game. Now, this review kind of, again, enhances what I was saying earlier about review scores. They gave Gigawing 35%, and I do have my issues with Gigawing, and I do, on the Shmup episode of the Dreamcast Junkyard podcast we did recently, I did kind of say that I didn't like it because it seems pointless to me that you can completely just go through the game with infinite continues and it doesn't matter if you live or die. But to basically slag the game off just because of its 2D visuals, which is what this review does, I don't really agree with it. Anyway, the magazine gave Gigawing 35%. Nice big advert there for Metropolis Street Racer. So I said that there's so many reviews in this issue of the magazine, it's unreal. Railroad Tycoon 2, a game I quite like. The magazine gave it 33%. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? 59%. It's not... God, is it really a game? It's more like a DVD game than an actual proper Dreamcast game, really, isn't it? Capcom vs SNK, the magazine awarded it 87%. One of the best fighting games on the Dreamcast, I will say. So why it didn't get 90 or above? I'm not going to quibble about a few points, but, probably the 2D thing again. Seaman. Oh, we're on to the import reviews now. So these are the games that weren't out in the UK at the time. So Seaman, this gets 84%. I think they're actually looking at the Japanese version here. So yeah. I think the Capcom vs SNK was an import review as well. So, and that's it for the review section. Quite a lengthy one. The interact section is just letters, read reviews. Code Veronica 92%. NFL Blitz 2000 90%, NBA 2K 91%, Toy Commander 93%, PlayStation 2 advert, best websites to be browsed on your Dreamcast, internet enabled Dreamcast, cheats and tips, big guide here for Ferrari, not that it ever helped me because I'm still rubbish at it, and then some adverts here at the back, and then the directory. Couple of DVD reviews there. Terminator 2, American Psycho. I've got here CD reviews, Radiohead, Robbie Williams, Sing When You're Winning. Comics. Yeah, and the rest of the directory. This is the TAT section, I like to call it. This is cool. You've got this massive stereo here, Kenwood, with a mini disc player stuck to the front of it. And this video here, this video camera, they're going on about the 4 megabyte memory. Just shows you how time's moved on. Or technology's moved on with time, I should say. Yeah, so this is the end of the magazine now. Issue 15 on sale 2nd of November 2000. And then, yeah, back issues. And then Dream Moment, which is performing a 900 in Tony Hawk. That's the end of the issue. So yeah, that's issue 14 of Dreamcast Magazine from October 2000. I hope you enjoyed listening to my monotonous, monotone voice. That's enough from me for now. Goodbye.